on this unfortunate note outside the shores of Nigeria, where 4 people are dead and 14 injured after an attack at a Turkish aerospace company near Ankara. Now, the Interior Minister, Ali Yelakaya, calls it a terrorist attack and says 2 suspects were neutralized. CCTV footage from the site of Turkish aerospace industries shows a man firing a gun inside the building. TAI is a state-owned arms and aerospace technology firm located in Karaman, about 17 miles northwest of Ankara. Turkey is no stranger to attacks branded as terrorism. Also, more now from the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has disclosed that the attack on the Turkish aerospace industries headquarters is a vile attack targeting the survival of the country. In a lengthy statement recently shared on X, Erdogan stresses that security forces acted quickly to neutralize the threat. While back home in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu has carried out his much-anticipated cabinet reshuffle. The cabinet reshuffle was announced today after a weekly Federal Executive Council meeting which took place at the council chambers of the State House in Abuja. President Tinubu scrapped the Niger Delta Ministry as well as Ministry of Sports Development. He also merged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu scrapped the Niger Delta Ministry as well as the Ministry of Sports Development. He also merged the Ministry of Tourism with the Ministry of Culture and Creative Economy. The cabinet reshuffle is the first to be carried out by President Tinubu since he assumed power as Nigeria's leader in May 2023. The president also sacked some ministers, redesignated some, and appointed some others into his cabinet. According to a statement from the presidency today, President Tinubu sacked 5 ministers, thanking them for their contributions to his administration and the governance of the country. The sacked ministers are Barrister Ojukwu Ohanenge, Minister of Women Affairs; Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism; Professor Tahir Maman, Minister of Education; Abdullahi Mohammed Gwazo, Minister of State Housing and Urban Development; Dr. Jamila Bio Ibrahim, Minister of Youth Development. Meanwhile, the former Minister of Sports, Sunday Dare, has joined the administration of President Bola Tinubu as Special Advisor to the President on Public Communication and Orientation. VAP News gathered also that the widow of the late Ikemba of Newi, Sir Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, Ambassador Bianca Ono, was appointed Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. The appointment was announced in a statement issued by the presidency following the Federal Executive Council meeting today. Also, President Tinubu fired 5 ministers, merged some ministries. The names of the new ministers and designations are as follows: Dr. Nentawe Yuwada, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction; Muhammadu Meigari Dingiadi, Minister of Labour and Employment, Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment; Bianca Odinaka Odumegu Ojukwu, Minister of State Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also replaced the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Betta Edu, with Dr. Nentawa Yewada. The replacement was contained in a statement issued by the presidency today. You'll recall that in January, President Tinubu suspended Edu after she ordered the transfer of 585.2 million naira into the private bank account of a civil servant who is the accountant in charge of grants for vulnerable Nigerians. President Tinubu also asked the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to carry out a thorough investigation of all the ministry's financial transactions. The investigation extended to the entire framework of Nigeria's social investment programs. However, Dr. Edu has denied any wrongdoing. At the time of the investigation, Betta Edu's office said that she had approved the transfer into a personal account for the implementation of grants to vulnerable groups. The Office of the Accountant General of the Federation said such funds were meant to be sent directly from government accounts to the beneficiaries. Now, prominent South-South leader Edwin Clark has countered the decision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to scrap the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. The former Federal Commissioner for Information argued that there is no basis for the president to scrap the ministry, alleging that the plan of the Nigerian leader is to use the money from the region to develop other regions of the country. President Tinubu said a Ministry of Regional Development would oversee all the regional development commissions, such as the Niger Delta Development Commission, Commission, Northwest Development Commission, Southwest Development Commission, and Northeast Development Commission. The National Sports Commission will take over the role of the Ministry of Sports. Now, Edwin Clark, who is the leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, said President Tinubu has no good plans for the people of the Niger Delta. He argued the former president Umaru Yar'Adua had created the Ministry for the Development of the region and to curb insecurity in the region. Therefore, President Tinubu has no basis for scrapping the ministry. He said, and I quote, "The news came to me as a surprise. There is no basis for scrapping it now. Yar'Adua had a poise for creating it to develop the Niger Delta region and Nigeria to bring peace to the region. What I have noticed so far is that there is no basis actually for it. It is not about that. It is the administrative structure created by the president. Unfortunately, it was misunderstood by Nigerians due to its complexity. Why would you take over a ministry without any developmental plans, funding, or concrete actions? Even the East-West Road, which was meant to be under the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, is not being addressed. It has been handed back to the Ministry of Works." In a recent development, the House of Representatives has instructed its Committee on Power to swiftly probe the frequent national grid collapses and provide a report within 3 weeks. This is amid a motion of urgent national importance raised by Honorable Mansur Manusoro, representing Bauchi PDP, during the plenary session today. Honorable Soro, in his motion, expressed deep concerns over the persistent grid failures which have plunged the entire country into blackout, worsening the economic challenges already bedeviling the nation. The lawmaker stressed that a stable power supply is essential to driving economic growth and development in any nation. He pointed out that the national grid had collapsed 8 times in 2024 alone, describing the situation as alarming. He highlighted that states in the northwest and northeast regions have been left in darkness due to the ongoing power sector crisis, urging the Transmission Company of Nigeria to restore electricity to the affected states. Soro also noted the troubling fact that these grid collapses are occurring even as the Minister of Power assures the public of improved electricity supply, a promise that led to the government's approval of increased electricity tariffs for Band A customers. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into a news analysis segment. This time, I actually have right here in the studio Mr. Peter Anosike. Peter Anosike is a political national social affairs commentator. He's also an economic strategist and one of the best-selling authors in Africa. To kindly stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Mr. Peter Anosike, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So apparently the anticipated cabinet reshuffle, we saw what transpired today. A couple of questions were raised as to the late Odumedu Ojukwu's wife. You know, she's part of the cabinet now, and a lot of persons are asking that, is this a way to possibly commiserate persons of the Southeast? Is it a way to show inclusivity? What precisely is the idea behind this? Is this a way to possibly curry the favor of those in the Southeast to support the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to reduce the agitation of those calling out for Biafra? If the supposed warlord that led the Biafran war, the wife, will be in the president's cabinet. What's your take on that?
Well, for me, Ohanenye is from Anambra State. So what he did was to remove somebody from Anambra State and still add somebody from Anambra State. It
could be any other person. Why her? That's the question. People feel that there is a motive behind it.
Well, for me, I don't know the motive, but okay. I was discussing with somebody before I came into this studio, and what I was saying is that Bianca should reject the appointment.
Why?
Because one, this is to tarnish her image. This is a government that has already failed.
Okay.
This is a government that has already failed. So she being a part of this government is not going to do well to her reputation. So for me, she should reject the appointment.
Are you being sentimental or objective? I need you to tell me from an objective angle why she should reject the appointment.
Because if Ojukwu is alive, Ojukwu wouldn't have accepted it.
How do you know that, sir? How are you certain? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not part of those that fought the civil war. He had no hand in what transpired at the time. How are you very certain that Ojukwu would not have actually embraced that opportunity? Didn't he come back and campaign to be the president of this country after he went on exile?
This would do Bianca more harm than good.
How are you very certain?
I am very certain. I am very sure.
Can
because
you read out the factors for me as to why you think that is the case?
One, APC was not founded. APC from foundation is an anti-Igbo party.
Mr. Peter Anosike, you cannot make such a generalization.
Excuse me.
Mr. Peter Anosike, you can't make such a generalization.
When APC was founded, they have 42 executives. No Igbo man was there. Go and check. Google it. The first 42 executive of APC, no Igbo man was there. So it is an anti-Igbo party.
So now,
and what Ojukwu represent for the Igbo people, it will be very, very wrong for Bianca to serve under an APC government.
Mr. Peter Anosike, can you recall that
it will damage her image?
When Ojukwu was still alive, when he came back to this country, he held several press conferences, or there were actually exclusive interviews with him. And he would tell you, while he was reeling out all the challenges and what led to the civil war, he would tell you that he doesn't want that to happen again. He campaigned, if you could recall, when he was alive as well, to be the president of this nation. He also talked about inclusivity, because at the time he realized that the Southeast region couldn't do it alone to lead this country. Nigeria is peculiar. So how are you very certain that if Ojukwu was alive, that he will turn down this ministerial appointment or ask the wife not to accept the ministerial appointment?
Because I know what Ojukwu stood for. I know what Ojukwu stood for. And Bianca's serving under an APC government, which is an anti-Igbo party, would do more harm to her name than good.
Mr. Peter Anosike, would you recall that a couple of persons who also are not in line with your logic feel
everybody must not be. This is my own opinion.
Feel that civil war was needless and that Ojukwu was basically just exuberating or exhibiting what you call youthful exuberance. He didn't take proper counsel. Now, if you would also recall at the time as well, that after the entire war happened, a couple of persons felt he was not a leader for going on exile. They felt he should have been at the forefront to die with those who actually fought the war. So how would you give this logical reason?
That's the theory of Igbo haters. That's the theory of Igbo haters. If you were in Ojukwu's position in 1967, you would have done what Ojukwu did, because dead bodies of Igbos were arriving from the north on a daily basis. Ojukwu never wanted to fight any war, but what he is seeing, and before Ojukwu went for that war, he consulted. Okay. He consulted widely, and the only option was for him to go to lead the Igbos to the war. Understand me? Ojukwu did not do it. It wasn't a personal decision.
Okay.
There was several meetings, and with the dead bodies of Igbos coming down from the north on a daily basis, he cannot stand it.
All right. Now, if you recall,
what Ojukwu did is exactly what Netanyahu is doing at this point in time. Understand me?
Okay. Let's look at that strategy
and
from that angle.
If you are in that position, if you don't do it, you hate your people.
All right, Mr.
So if Ojukwu did not fight that war, he hates his people.
Let's look at it also from this angle. Ever since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board, we've been hearing tribal sentiment, we've been hearing the polity being heated up, we've been hearing a couple of things concerning tribal divide. Don't you think that this is a way of trying to extend a hand of peace to those specifically from the Southeast to say, hey, I have your interests at heart? and that is why I'm actually bringing this person in my cabinet. Maybe
Wait,
this will cement the
excuse
frayed
me.
relationship.
What is influence of a minister? What is the influence of a minister? Ask yourself that question. What is the influence of a minister? A minister is just an errand boy in government. And Ojukwu's wife must not be used as an errand boy.
Or Minister of State for Foreign Affairs.
What is it? That's a junior minister that's to start with. But even if it's a senior minister, Bianca Ojukwu should reject that appointment.
Well, the appointment was given today, actually. So is there a possibility that the appointment could be turned down between, let's say, today or tomorrow?
It is voluntary. She had the right to say yes or no.
That's what I'm saying. What's the stipulated period to either accept or turn it down?
I don't know that.
But before this ministerial person's nominations are made, haven't there been some lobbying? Names were submitted. Obviously, she must have known that her name was amongst the list. So it means that she actually wanted this appointment. Otherwise, she may
Some
have said
people hear the appointments on air. Some people hear the appointment on air in this country.
All right. Interesting.
So for me, Bianca must not accept that because it will damage her name.
All right, let's see how it goes. Like we're talking about, like you just said now, some people just hear about the appointment on air. They weren't possibly privy to that particular information before time. So let's see if she will accept this or not. But if she doesn't reject it, what would you now say?
I will be highly disappointed, and Igbos will be highly disappointed.
Don't speak for the entirety of a particular region. You cannot say, Mr. Nosiki. The fact that you don't like it or the fact that you're disappointed doesn't mean another person would be disappointed.
Mind you, Chinua Achebe rejected their so-called national award. Understand me? So when you are not happy with a system, you are not supposed to take anything from that system. So this is a failed government. If Bianca Ojukwu serving under a failed government, they are going to put him as part of that government.
A couple of persons will argue with you that you're generalizing again, saying this is a failed government. This is just 1 year and into the administration of President Tinubu. You still have almost 3 years to go.
For what to happen?
What's your determinant to say it's a failed government?
For what to happen?
For the administration
Foundation is
to continue.
important. They have lost it.
So that's your prediction, your
they
trajectory.
They have lost it.
All right, Ms. Anosike, let's look at the Niger Delta Development Commission, which has been scrapped. And because of that, Edwin Clark counter the decision of President Bola Tinubu in scrapping the Niger Delta affairs at that particular region, committee that was set up to look into the affairs of the Niger Delta. According to him, he said there is no basis for the president to scrap the ministry, alleging that the plan of the leader is to use the money from the region to develop other regions of the country. Can you remember when there was an investigation into the NDDC during former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and we saw a lot of lapses, a lot of monies used frivolously by persons in charge of that committee and not into addressing the welfare of persons of the Niger Delta? And then of course, that's where we had the whole off the mic situation with Godswill Akpabio too, who was also in front of that situation. Now, what Edwin Clark is saying with what transpired, do you think that his alarm is coming at the wrong time?
I stand 100% with him.
Okay.
Because Niger Delta is a peculiar situation. If you have gone to Niger Delta and see their environmental degradation, understand me, they cannot farm, they cannot drink, they cannot catch fish, they cannot fish, they cannot farm, they cannot drink water in their area because of oil. And this is what is being used to build the other parts of the country. So they deserve special treatment.
All right, but
go to Niger Delta and see and
all the
and
monies that region has been getting through this allocation, that is through the NDDC. Where is the money going if those regions are still decrepit, as you just described? Where is the money going? Those in charge of the NDDC, what have they been using the money to do? All this while, since it was constituted during the time of Yaradua.
How did that come into being? Mind you, it was the militants, Asare Dakobo and Tompondo, Ateketom and others,
yes,
that has to carry guns against this because of what is happening in their area. Because the golden fish, the chicken that is laying that the golden egg is just going hungry, going empty. Why the other people are benefiting from what is happening in the Niger Delta? Why they are suffering? I say they cannot farm, they cannot fish, they cannot drink water in their region.
So would you blame the government, or you blame those who are in charge of the NDDC for not properly utilizing the allocation given to them to take care of those environments?
Who appointed them? When you appoint somebody, when you give somebody a responsibility, it behoves on you to check what that person is doing. And if he's not doing it right, then you either change him or let the law take its course.
All right, but if you look at the way the whole thing was arranged, right, in the category, there will be no NDDC, but there will be somebody that will have to oversee all the different commissions. You have the Ministry of Regional Development, which will now oversee all the regional development commissions. So instead of having the NDDC different, and you have other regional commissions being set aside, there will be a particular commission to oversee all of those commissions, rather than having the NDDC separate. Maybe it's a way to checkmate how the funds are utilized.
That person is going to be distracted because he will have many regions to deal with, and the problems of the regions are never the same.
Okay.
So Niger Delta is supposed to be given preferential treatment. Understand me?
All right.
So I stand with what Edwin Kundak is saying. They are supposed to be given preferential treatment. It is Niger Delta that have been sustaining this country from the crude oil there.
Okay. Well, let's see how it goes, and let's see if other chieftains too will come out to give their own different perspective or angle to this particular scrapping of the NDDC. Let's look at the House of Representatives asking the committee to swiftly probe the frequent national grid collapse. So they have instructed a certain committee, they created a committee to actually look into the frequent grid collapse. Apparently, it's quite unfortunate and terrible that in the last 1 month, the grid has collapsed almost 10 times. The national grid has collapsed 10 times. Meanwhile, we were surprised that in the ministerial appointment given, we didn't see that there was a replacement to the Minister of Power.
That guy, that's Adendabu, is the first person that should have been sacked.
So what happened? Why didn't that replacement come in?
He's a God's boy.
Oh, really?
He's a God's boy. And check all those needs. No God's boy was sacked. Understand me? They are all there, and this is what I know will happen. When they were mentioning names, I said, look, forget about one day do, forget about Cardoso, forget about
or Chief of Staff
Adendabu. Understand me? Nothing will happen to them. Understand me? Even when they were talking about that they developed an app where Nigerians are supposed to be, I say, this thing is not going to work. Did it work?
We were supposed to look at ministries that the ministers were not being active. And it's quite unfortunate that there were evidences to prove that the Minister of Power is not capable of handling the challenges the Power Ministry is going through.
Assuming that this government is not biased, assuming that this government is conscious enough to know what's happening in the country, Adendabu should have been the first minister to be sacked.
Do you think we're expecting other lists
I'm not talking of replacement.
Okay.
Just sack, go.
Do you think that there will be other lists to come out, subsequent lists that will come out after today's own?
Even this one that came out, I'm not even impressed. Understand me? It is just like sending a monkey and buying a dog. Understand me? We are still where we are. There's no star among them.
There's no star amongst them.
None
of the ministers are doing anything appropriate.
There's no star among them.
So how does that describe his cabinet then? How does that describe his administration?
We are still where we are. We are still where we are.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Nosike, for taking your time to give us your insight or your perspective to the issues discussed on the World News at 6. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And to wrap up here, again, are the top stories. 4 killed in attack on Turkish aerospace firm. Our CCTV shows gunman opening fire. While back home in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu reshuffles cabinet. President Tinubu replaces Betta Edu. Edwin Clark blows hot on Tinubu's cabinet reshuffle. And House of Reps to probe frequent national grid collapses. That's a wrap on the world news at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Ojukwu. Good evening and thank you for listening.